Thank you very much, Ambassador Lee. We now have about a couple of minutes to take comments from the floor, if any. Well, Professor Nishioka, please.
ありがとうございます。今日のお話を聞いててですね、北朝鮮というのは悪の存在だと、その悪の特徴が嘘をつくことだ、私たちは嘘と戦っているというふうに、実感しました。私は1991年に日本人が拉致されているという論文を日本の学者として一番最初に書きましたが、その時は殺してやるという脅迫状をもらいました。しかし10年経って金正日は拉致を認めました。ただし日本人だけです。まだここにいる他の国の拉致はまだ認めていません。その嘘と戦わなければならない。しかし私たちは2002年に新たな嘘をつかれました。これが日本政府が作ったパンフレットですが、北朝鮮は13人しか拉致してないと、5人返して8人は死んだ、だから解決した、拉致はないと言っていたのが今度は解決したという嘘をつきました。私たちはそれは絶対認められない。例えば死亡診断書を嘘を書く、偽の遺骨を出す、偽の交通事故の書類をでっち上げて人が死んだという、そんなことを認められません。ですからすべての拉致被害者、認定未認定にかかわらずすべての拉致被害者が帰ってくるまで日本政府、そして国際社会とともに痛みを与え続けなければならない。しかし彼らが取引に応じるならば、私たちは日本政府が国交正常化をすることを反対しないと言っています。李先生、李大使のお話、全く賛成であります。みんなで嘘と戦いましょう。ありがとうございました。
Thank you, Professor Nishioka. Before I turn the floor over to the distinguished representatives of the European Union, Australia, and the United States of America, co-sponsors of this event, let me say that for us, and I know that there are other CSO representatives in the room, it has always been frustrating that human rights is outcompeted by very grave concerns, political, security, and military concerns. Japan has dealt with both sets of issues. North Korean missiles have violated Japanese airspace. Japanese citizens have been taken and are still being held in North Korea. What if this is the beginning? What if this is finally the opportunity to address the two sets of issues together? I would like to thank, first and foremost, Chief Cabinet Secretary Suga, the government of people of Japan, of the United States of America, of the European Union, and Australia for their support and for co-sponsoring this conference today. These particular governments have been behind efforts to address human rights at the UN for many years, and we do hope that these efforts will continue. We do hope that this coalition of like-minded liberal democracies and constitutional republics will continue to be as effective as it has been so far. That said, I would like to turn the floor over to Ambassador Silvio Gonzato, who is the Deputy Head of the European Union delegation. Sir.
Thank you, Greg. Mr. Suga, Ambassador Besho, I would like to thank you for giving me the opportunity to share some remarks at the end of this important event, which the European Union has gladly co-sponsored. Our discussion today has been a timely and sad reminder that the human rights situation in North Korea remains dire, despite the flurry of contacts and activities we have witnessed in the past months, particularly in relation to the nuclear issue. Against this background, the unresolved abduction cases remain one of the most striking and inhuman examples of human rights violations by North Korea. These cases affect not only the victims themselves, but also their entire families, as we have heard today through the compelling testimonies of the families present. I would like to thank the families for sharing their stories here with us today. It must be a very painful experience for you to talk about your family members and renew the memories of their disappearance. However, your testimonies help us maintain international attention and raise public awareness about a situation of serious concern which goes beyond these personal cases and reminds us of the many other serious human rights violations which range from severe restrictions on all forms of fundamental freedoms, including freedom of expression and freedom of movement, to access to information, access to basic services and goods, especially food, as Mr. Warmbier was mentioning, to mention only a few. These violations are matched by a perverse penitentiary system which detains arbitrarily in inhuman conditions many political prisoners. Conscious of the tragic human dimension of this situation, the EU has consistently included references to the issue of abductions in the resolutions we table regularly at the Human Rights Council and in the General Assembly. We have also referred to them in the joint statement adopted at the 26th EU-Japan Summit that took place some weeks ago. The Universal Periodic Review, which took place only yesterday at the Human Rights Council in Geneva, where the North Korea underwent its third peer review, gave us another opportunity to address these serious human rights violations. And in addition, the EU, including through its member states' missions present in Pyongyang, has been raising these issues directly with the DPRK at working level in the framework of our critical engagement policy. Ladies and gentlemen and colleagues, we believe that human rights issues should be part and parcels of ongoing diplomatic efforts, in particular the inter-Korean talks. The cases of abductions and the plight of the families affected by it require urgent action because time is passing by and the victims and their relatives are growing older, as the witnesses reminded us today. As European Union, we are ready to support any effort of the international community to improve the situation on the ground. But at the same time, we intend to continue tabling resolution on the situation of human rights in the DPRK at the UN. We will also continue to support the mandate of the Special Rapporteur and stand by the work of the accountability structure of the Office of the High Commissioner on Human Rights in Seoul. Let me conclude with a big personal thank you to all present today, and in particular to the families, to the panelists for their interesting contributions, to the Japanese government for taking the initiative, and to the Minister in particular for honoring us with his presence, and of course to the other two co-sponsors for their support. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador Gonzato. And now we're going to hear closing remarks from Her Excellency Tegan Brink, Australia's Deputy Permanent Representative.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. And can I say at the outset that Australia stands by Japan in its efforts to see the return of Japanese citizens abducted by North Korea. We understand and appreciate the significance of this issue to your country. This is fundamentally a human rights issue, which I think came out clearly in the really tragic testimony from the families of victims who have spoken today. And I think that victims telling their stories and fighting to continue to tell their stories is such an important part of the quest for truth and the quest for accountability. And I really commend you all for your bravery today and every day. More broadly, Australia shares the very deep concerns expressed just now by my European Union colleague about the broader human rights situation in North Korea. The UN Secretary-General's most recent report from August last year revealed very little evidence of any positive change since the 2014 Commission of Inquiry report, which was chaired by the Australian High Court Judge Michael Kirby, which identified human rights abuses at the scale of crimes against humanity. And my EU colleague has given some examples of those crimes just now. I think It's also necessary, of course, to touch on the security issue, which a number of speakers have mentioned, because North Korea's nuclear and ballistic missile programs are a profound security challenge and concern. And Australia, like others, is deeply committed to the complete, verifiable and irreversible denuclearisation of North Korea. We have welcomed the talks between the United States and North Korea and between South Korea and North Korea, but we remain sceptical of North Korea's intentions. And that is why Australia, I think, working with our partners around the world and those present here today, is committed. We are committed to maintaining pressure on North Korea, on the security front and on the human rights front, because there can, I think, be no sustainable peace without respect for human rights. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador Brink. And finally, we will hear closing remarks from the Honorable Jonathan R. Cohen. Ambassador Cohen is U.S. Acting Permanent Representative. Sir.
Thank you, Greg, and thank you, Chief Cabinet Secretary Suga, for making this important event possible today and for your nation's continuing efforts to address this serious problem of abductions. Thanks also to Australia and the European Union for co-hosting this event. We also thank the experts who joined us today to share their insightful views and ideas about how the international community can better address these issues. And finally, and most of all, thank you to the family members who've shared their stories this evening. We're in awe of your strength and support your efforts to call for accountability and transparency regarding the whereabouts of your loved ones. North Korea remains one of the most repressive states in the world. Its human rights situation is deplorable. The North Korean government continues to commit arbitrary and unlawful killings, forced disappearances, torture, and other forms of abuse, including sexual violence. The regime interferes with nearly all aspects of its citizens' lives and benefits through the exploitation of its people by operating an economy based on a system of forced labor. Yesterday in Geneva, the United States delegation delivered our intervention at the DPRK's third Universal Periodic Review and again called for the dismantlement of North Korea's political prison camp system, which holds an estimated 100,000 individuals, including children and family members of the accused. We remain deeply concerned about the abductions issue and North Korea's egregious human rights record. We're committed to raising international awareness regarding Pyongyang's continuing abuses and violations, increasing access to independent information, and promoting respect for human rights in the DPRK, including by continuing to shine a light here at the UN on its violations and abuses. The United States stands with those whose loved ones were abducted. We'll never forget the suffering of the victims, nor the pain the families feel in their absence. Thank you for your attention, and thank you for being with us today.
Thank you, Ambassador Cohen, and let me tell you that it has been an extraordinary privilege, a true honor to be your moderator today. We have gathered here today because we all have a fundamental respect for justice, for human rights, and as difficult as it might be, I believe that many of us continue to believe in diplomacy. Perhaps there are solutions down the road. Let me once again thank Chief Cabinet Secretary Suga, Ambassador Besho, the people and governments of Japan, the United States, the European Union, Australia. Your Excellencies, thank you so much for being with us today. It means a lot to the family members, to the victims, to all of us who have participated in this event today. And first and foremost, I would like to thank our distinguished family members, our dear friends. We know how difficult it is to relive those harrowing experiences every time you share them with the audience. And I promise you, we will never, ever stop. We will bring them home. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Have a good evening.